Hello everyone, welcome back to Gran Turismo Story. Today we're going to be talking about the top 20 slowest cars in all of Gran Turismo. So this will be including everything from Gran Turismo 1 right through to Gran Turismo 7, including all the games in between. So just as usual, before we start, remember to check out the Patreon if you're interested, write in the comments and I'll get speaking to you and sort that out. Remember to join the Discord and you can join in some of the videos and all that stuff, and make sure to like and subscribe, especially subscribe, I'm trying to get to 400 subscribers. Hopefully I've got it by the time this video goes out, but who knows. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, I'm defining slow as top speed. Some people may define it as performance points. I don't want to do that because each game is scaled slightly differently, so it's not very accurate. Some people may do 0 to 60, but most of these cars don't even reach 60, so that would be quite difficult. So I'm going with the other option, and that is top speed. So let's get into it. Starting at number 20, the 20th slowest car, if you will, in all of Gran Turismo is going to be the Fiat 500 Abarth edition, only featuring the GT7. Now, some of you may remember this car in the OP Daytona 500 glitch. I know I use that a lot. You tune this thing up to about 220 miles an hour. You can get it on the straight, go round and get a load of credits. That was taking advantage of the custom races, I believe. So this car has a 0.6 litre inline 2, producing 30 horsepower and 32 foot-pounds torque. Interestingly, a 4-speed gearbox, which is quite a lot for a car this small. Now this is actually based off the original Fiat 500, which will be coming up later, and this is an original tuned version, if you will. Weighing just 470 kilos, so the power isn't the best. It is quite light, and it has a top speed of 82 miles per hour, which will be the fastest car on the list, which isn't too bad, I guess. Now moving on to number 19, that's going to be the recently added Renault R4 GTL. This was added as part of update 1.43. This actually has a lot bigger engine than the Fiat, so the Fiat only had 0.6 litres, this has a 1.1 litre and double the cylinders. 1.1 litre inline 4 is actually quite big for kind of city cars, even for today's standard, but the power at 33 horsepower is quite bad. I can't understand how a car with double the cylinders and a car 15 years younger with double the cylinders makes just the same power, but I guess it does. It is slightly heavy, about 300 kilos, and that may be partly to blame. Front engine, front wheel drive, with a top speed of 78 miles an hour. I don't think this is as aerodynamic as the Fiat, and that probably doesn't help. This guy's a bit like a brick, if I'm being honest. Really slow, not very fun to drive this car. So we're already going from 82 miles an hour down to 78, so the cars are getting progressively slower, quite quickly, to be fair. Now in the number 18 spot will be the Gran Turismo Racing Car 100. So back in Gran Turismo 6 there was about 4 or 5 different variants of the cars. There was the Junior Car, the 100 Series or 100cc Cup, 125cc Cup, and the Shifter Car, kind of a racing variant for each one. So we're going to be talking about the 100cc Cup and the kind of racing variant to go with it. The power is very much the same. So it's basically a go-kart, 22 horsepower, so the power is a lot less than the kind of other two cars. But it only weighs 80 kilograms, 80. Now I can bench press that. Now these other cars are like 740 or 400 and that lot, from the Fiat and the Renault. So that is why it is actually just as fast, or slightly slower, while having nearly the same kind of power. Also, while having less power. And the top speed with this car, or kart if you will, is 76 miles an hour. And all these speeds are measured in miles an hour, just to make that a bit clear. And yes, so slightly slower than the Renault. Not by much, but one thing to note is these karts aren't built for straight line speed, they're built for handling. Let me tell you, going in the go-kart with no protection at 76 miles an hour would be terrifying. Now, I always remember the paint jobs these cars had. If you look at the rear, white and black, grey and black, orange and black, yellow and black. They have some really interesting colours, and that is what makes these cars stand out for me. That also combined with the fact that the races are so hard to do, just made me not like these cars, if I'm being honest. Okay, so the car in the number 17 spot will be the Mazda Carol 360 Deluxe from 1962. Quite a long name, I know. Now, this is actually a really weird car. It has a 0.4 litre inline 4. I can't really understand why someone would only have 400cc yet have 4 cylinders. And actually the power has been the lowest on the list so far at only 19. Compare that to the go-karts, which are 80 kilograms and having 3 more. 4-speed gearbox, rear engine, rear wheel drive. A lot of these cars on the list are rear engine, rear wheel drive. I don't really know why it is, but my kind of theory is they're kind of based off old German cars maybe. Or maybe at the time that's just how they thought the best way to make a car was. So weighed 560 kilograms, so the weight was okay, but once again it wasn't really focused on kind of aerodynamics, it was more of a city car, I guess. With a top speed of 74 miles an hour, slightly slower than the go-kart. Now we're getting to the point now where some of these cars won't be able to reach 60, and the reason why I'm not giving you 0 to 60 times with these cars is because it'll probably be in the minutes, not the seconds. Okay, so the car coming in the number 16 spot is one I'm sure you're all aware of, one of the OG slow cars if you will, the Volkswagen Type 2 Samba Bus, the original Volkswagen camper van. That's appeared in every game from GT5 onwards, currently in GT7 as you can see. And I still see these around in real life sometimes, they're quite a popular car. 1.2 litre rear engine, rear wheel drive. The engine isn't, the engine compared to the other lot is relatively big, I guess you could say at 1.2 litres, but it's a bus at the end of the day, it's not meant for speed, is it? About 33 brake horsepower isn't too bad, and that gets this car to a top speed of 73 miles an hour, which is just 1 mile an hour short of the Carroll. I'm sure in reality cars probably have the exact same top speed, just for the sake of the list. Worth mentioning, this car weighs actually over a tonne, nearly 1.1 tonnes. So as weight, I know some people say it doesn't affect top speed, but it will definitely affect the acceleration. Next one will be the Daihatsu Midget Type 2 from 1998. It's worth mentioning there's actually 2 different types of Daihatsu Midgets, one from the early 60s, which became up later, and one from the late 90s. We're going to talk about the 90s one, because that's the slightly faster one. Now it's been featured in every game from GT2 to GT6 without appearing in GT3 for some reason. It's actually a K car, so they're limited to a certain speed, so that's probably why this car's so slow really. 0.7 litre I suspect is probably around 660-some cc, because that's what they usually are. 3 cylinders of course with 33 horsepower, it doesn't look very aerodynamic, with a weight of 570 kilograms. If you do want to know the 0 to 60 time, that happens in 34 seconds, and it can get to 73 miles an hour, just slightly slower than the VW Bus that came before it. Anyway, so next one's a slightly surprising one, I'm sure. A lot of people probably expected this car to be a lot higher up. Now I have to admit, I think there's been some error in the Gran Turismo Wiki's kind of information about this car, but we'll go with it. That is the Subaru 360, yes, this little car here. Now this takes the somehow number 14th spot, and it has a 356cc engine, doesn't say how many cylinders. Once again, rear engine, rear wheel drive for some reason. I don't think any of these cars actually have a turbo, so they're all naturally aspirated, with a new PR for the low horsepower, that at just 16 horsepower. 16 that is. 385 kilograms, so the weight is also really low to be fair. Apparently this car can actually do 70 miles an hour, which I was quite impressed with. The car was only 16 horsepower. Doing 70 is quite impressive, but too impressive, but there we go. Now, once again, every country has their kind of people's car, if you will, and this is the Japan's version. Kind of got post-war Japan moving, as the description says. But you can win this car, I know, in GT4, it's kind of a mini car that you can win in some Subaru-related races, and it is a car that a lot of people like to collect. You can also buy this car in the later games, but I think it won't really give you much use, if I'm being honest. Okay, now at the number 13 spot. That is the Willys Jeep from America. Now, as you probably can be able to tell, this is a car from 1945, so obviously featured in World War II. Not the first World War II car to be featured on this list though, we'll get to that later. Now, it has probably the biggest engine of the list, a 2.2 litre, I'd like to say inline 4, with 4-wheel drive, that's a nice bonus. 60 horsepower, that's not too bad to be fair. It's slightly heavy at 1.1 tonne, but not too far away from the VW Bus mentioned earlier. It only comes in one colour, this kind of arm colour if you will, but it is quite cheap to buy Gran Turismo 7, although you can win it. Most people have this car in their garage for one reason or another. And this car can do 65 miles an hour on road, that is. I'm not sure what it can do off-road, that's not really relevant, as half these cars don't get to do anything off-road. This 65 is quite slow really, the numbers are decreasing very quickly. Although it does actually have quite a lot of torque, at 107 foot-pounds, so that's quite a lot compared to 60 horsepower. Probably because it was designed to tow and carry around people rather than horsepower go as fast as you can, I guess. Next car is the Volkswagen Beetle, but not the one that is from Gran Turismo 7. This is one from GT6 from 1949, the original kind of prototype Beetle. Now this has a 1.1 litre flat 4, 25 horsepower. Some would say this is the origin of the Porsche 911, make of that what you will. Now this is Germany's people car, we talked about Japan's earlier form of Subaru, and it came slightly before the Subaru back in 1949, with a top speed of just 62 miles per hour. And that is quite slow, so I don't even have this car do 0 to 60, and if it does it will be very slow. Maybe 725 kilograms, it is slightly heavier than this competition, but it won't make too much of a difference. It does have 57 horsepower though, which isn't too bad, and 82 foot-pounds of torque. But this is only at 3000 RPM, so I don't think the engine likes revving very much. Okay, so the car at number 11, just missing out on the top 10, is the Honda Life Step Van. Now you've probably seen this car in other people's kind of slowest cars list, and it is a very slow car, there's no denying that. 0.4 litre inline 2. 28 horsepower, 4-speed, front engine, rear wheel drive, kind of the usual. What most of these cars have. 606 kilogram, but it is a van, so you've got to bear in mind the aerodynamics aren't the best, and it will be slightly heavier. Has the exact same top speed as the Beetle at 62, which is quite surprising considering this thing has half the horsepower and obviously has half the cylinders, and has about 1/4 of the litre, so I'm not sure what's gone on there. Anyway, from 1972, it looks a lot younger than it seems to be actually. And obviously, like the Subaru mentioned above and a couple of others like the Midget, this is another K car. There are a lot of these K cars and kind of car of the peoples on this list, if you will. Okay, so now we're getting into the top 10. When we're starting off with the Kart Junior, I mentioned earlier about the Kart 100, and I said there was a Kart Junior kind of one below the Kart 100, and here it is, as you can see. Has half the horsepower, just 11 horsepower, that's another new PR for the lowest horsepower compared to the 100cc's 22. It weighs the same at 80 kilograms, which is quite interesting. And much of this car is the same as the other one, the paint is exactly the same as design. Tsukuba, small tracks, mid-engine rear wheel drive, very much the same, featured in the exact same games. The only thing is it's got a smaller engine, junior design, much like for children to race in. But nevertheless, it does have a top speed of just 60 miles an hour, which is very slow. It has a top speed of just 60 miles an hour, it's not really setting any records, but carrying that speed through the corner in a kart, bearing in mind 80 kilograms is very light, it will actually be quite fast, and my guess is around a track this will probably be the fastest car on the list, other than this brother car, if you will. Now the car in the number 9 spot may surprise you, this position anyway. That is the Citroën 2CV, a classic, the French car for people. Now we've had the German car for people, we've had the Japanese car for people, now it's time for the French track, there you go. So 1954, post-war France, I believe this car was made from Gran Turismo 2, all the way up to Gran Turismo 6. I'd like to see this car in the game, but maybe it'll come one day. And the combination between VW Beetle and the Renault 4 that I talked about at the very start has the 0.4 litre Boxer 2 engine, very interesting engine, just 15 horsepower, 3-speed engine, but then it has the front engine front wheel drive setup from the Renault 4. Very light, just under 500 kilograms, and obviously it has a very unique suspension, I want to say going over the field, carrying eggs sort of thing. Paint for this car is very limited and it is quite difficult to obtain, but I think you have to do the manufacture races for Citroën, and I know like the Subaru, it's a car that a lot of people try and get. So you're probably surprised that this car's so high. We probably thought 15 horsepower, arguably the slowest car in GT6 is at number 9. Got to remember, I've been doing a lot of research to find the exact slowest cars. Actually, there are some cars that are slower than this that have been featured. I'm sure you can guess some of them. But anyway, let's talk about the top speed of this car quickly. It can do 58 miles an hour, so it can't even reach 60. Slightly slower than a car that came before it. But if the car at the number 9 spot can do 58 miles an hour, then I'm sure you can see how slow these other cars are. Car at the number 8 spot is the other Daihatsu midget that I kind of briefly mentioned earlier. Talk about the 1998 version at number 15. Now number 8 is going to be the 1963 version, the OG midget. Once again, another K car, but this is just a lot slower. 0.3 litre, 2-stroke, 1 cylinder. Most likely a motorbike engine, I guess. 12 horsepower, 2-speed. Ironically, it's mid-engine rear-wheel drive, but if you have a look at this car, the front wheel's really far forward, so I'm guessing that the engine probably sits on top of the wheel, maybe? 299 kilograms, so besides the car, I think it's the lightest that's been featured so far. And it looks physically a smaller car than the other midget, maybe even slightly more aerodynamic, if you will. And it's going to achieve a top speed of 54 miles an hour, which, isn't too bad for 1960s K car, but compared to some of the other cars on the list, it is too fast to be put any lower. Now, number 7 will be a bit cheating, but I'm going to be grouping together the original Fiat 500s. I know there's so many variants to choose from like 1965, 1968, 1970, 1972, but after doing some research, they all have the same horsepower, they all have the same engine, and they're very similar in weight, and ironically they can all achieve the same top speed. So I just thought, why not group them together and talk about them at once, I guess. 499cc, it's basically half a litre, rear engine rear wheel drive yet again, and this is Italy's car for the people. 520 kilograms, if you look at it, 520 kilograms does look slightly heavy for this car, but I think that weight is, slightly right. And this is in Gran Turismo 7, but it doesn't really get used very much, but you can see some gameplay on screen. Just 16 horsepower more than the 2CV, but for some reason is slower, I'm not really sure why. Has a load of paint colours, classic Italian reds and that lot. Capable of achieving 53 miles per hour. Anyway, so the number 6 and the number 5 cars are interesting, to say the least. Now, it took me a while, then I kind of remembered. These cars from GT6, and I thought I'd include them because, well, obviously they are cars. These are, we're going to talk about the number 6 car first. That is the Volkswagen Kübelwagen Type 82 from 1944. Now, this car was featured in Gran Turismo 5 and Gran Turismo 6, and it is a 985cc, once again rear engine, rear wheel drive, Volkswagen air-cooled flat 4 engine. I think it's a Boxer, I guess. 22 horsepower, and this common figure right here. 725 kilograms, so it is slightly heavy, but it can achieve 50 miles an hour, so we're getting slower. Now you probably want to know why this car looks the way it did, and that is because a certain person from your history lessons ordered for this car to be built for the German army in World War II, ironically to fight against the Willys Jeep from the earlier on the list. And I believe this car was actually built by Porsche, the same people that done the 911. They kind of invented Volkswagen, and Volkswagen had to build this car. Yeah, it is actually quite interesting, to be fair. And yeah, like I said, top speed of 50 miles an hour. Okay, so carrying on that theme, the next car is going to be another car that's very similar. It has the same top speed of 50 miles an hour, but I thought I'd just put it in the number 5 spot. I'm going to put them together because I didn't want to put them at one spot, because I wanted to talk about them separately because they're quite different cars. So as you can see with this one, you may notice something interesting. It looks a bit like a boat. That's because this car is actually amphibious. So for those of you who don't know what it means it can go in water and on land. As you'd expect, 4-wheel drive, 4-cylinder Boxer, 24 horsepower, 2 more than the other one, 1.1 litre. It can do 50 miles an hour, as I mentioned. It can actually do 6 miles an hour on water, which isn't too bad, to be fair. It does weigh slightly more, nearly a ton, but not too bad. These cars were quite expensive in GT6, and because of their slow power, I don't think many people used them. But it is a interesting car. to say the least. Next car is probably one you've all been waiting for, the Ford Model T from Gran Turismo 2, or Ford Model T Tour to give it its full name. Probably the car with the biggest engine on the list, I'd have thought, 2.9 litre inline 4, producing 20 brake horsepower. This was America's car for the people. Now, sorry to disappoint you, but there will not be British car for people because the Mini Cooper was too fast for this lot. But anyway, it's the car that got America moving back in 1915, arguably considered the world's first production car. I spoke about this in the last video. If you haven't seen it, go and check that out. Front engine rear wheel drive, it was quite interesting for the time, 635 kilograms, so it's reasonably heavy, but it is significantly older than most of the cars on this list, let's not forget that. But considering 45 miles an hour, slightly slower than the VWs. So, I mean, if you wanted to go from A to B simply to the shops, it beats walking, but I mean, compared to, people on the motorways doing 70, 80 miles an hour nowadays, 45 is reasonably slow, and I remember the Grand Tour, I'll insert the clip if it doesn't get copyrighted, of them trying to drive this car, very difficult to drive. Yet 16.5 million of these cars were made, which is just insane. One colour, black, Japan, enamel, just a simple black colour really, and only obtainable in GT4 for some interesting reason. Still not really sure about that one. Now you're probably thinking, what is the car in the number 3 spot? And that may surprise you, it's another car from the last video, the Lunar Roving Vehicle, and these sort of cars from the last video inspired me to make this video. Now, as you can expect, this is a vehicle that was used to drive on the moon back in 1971. Now, it's the only electric car on this list, to my knowledge, 4-wheel drive, 3 brake horsepower, a top speed of 20 miles an hour, seriously slow. 210 kilos, and it's worth noting you can't actually buy this car, you can only race it, drive it, if you will. Unfortunately, it only appears in Gran Turismo 6, and it would be quite interesting to have it in Gran Turismo 7, but I think they'll have to do something else with it. If they just added it, it'd be so slow that, there'd be no competitors, and I don't think it'd fit in very well, if I'm being honest, but, it'd be fun to have around nonetheless. Okay, so getting into the top 2 cars now, probably no surprise. Both from Mercedes-Benz, the Mercedes-Benz Peyton Motor Wagon and the Mercedes-Benz Daimler Motor Carriage, both of these from 1886. Now, the Motor Wagon has a 1 litre single cylinder, 1 brake horsepower, 1 speed gearbox, if that's even a thing. Rear engine, rear wheel drive, 265 kilograms with a top speed of 11 miles an hour. Now, all of these cars only appear in GT4 for some reason. And for some reason it has this park bench kind of seat, I don't really know what that's for. And the engine looks a bit weird, but it's from 1886, so let's give it some slack. Now, I spoke about this car in the last video as well, but it is arguably the slowest car in the series. Joints with its kind of cousin, the Mercedes-Benz Motor Carriage. This thing's a bit more interesting actually, 0.3 litres, so it's got a lot smaller engine. Single cylinder, 1 horsepower, 1 speed, but it's actually mid-engine rear wheel drive, and it can do 11, some sources say 12 miles an hour. So it's actually slightly faster than the other car, despite being carrying more people and being from the same year. I'm not really sure about that one. Once again, only appearing in GT2, but yeah, the 2 slowest cars in the series have a top speed of 11 miles an hour. 0 to 60, not possible. So yeah, that's it for this list. Let me know if there's any other videos you want to see. I did have quite a lot of fun making this. Be sure to like and subscribe, and goodbye.